Have you ever noticed that the most terrifying villains in From aren't the monsters? It's the people who seem to know more than they should. Think about that for a second. The creatures hunt. The town traps. The nightmares manipulate. But Sophia plans. And after that finale, one question refuses to go away. Why would she do it? Why would she wait all season, manipulate events from the shadows, watch people die one by one, and then make a move that appears to put the entire town in more danger than ever before? Because if what we saw in those final moments means what it appears to mean, then Sophia didn't just win, she changed the rules, and that should terrify everyone. But before we jump into the finale, do me a quick favor, hit that subscribe button. It helps the channel more than you know, and unlike digging up mysterious bones in a cursed town, it's extremely unlikely to trigger an apocalypse. Also, leave a like if you enjoy deep dives, theories, and breakdowns. I spend a ridiculous amount of time connecting clues, rewatching episodes, and trying to make sense of this wonderfully insane show, so every bit of support genuinely helps these videos reach more From fans. Now let's get into it. And of course, spoiler warning, we're discussing the full Season 4 finale. Major character deaths, Sophia's actions, the bottle tree, the boy in white, Fatima's transformation, and what all of it could mean moving forward. If you're not caught up, this is your chance to leave. Seriously. Because things get dark. The finale opens with something From has always done exceptionally well. It gives the audience hope before ripping it away. The town finally seems closer to answers than ever before. Jade and Tabitha have a plan. The mystery surrounding the children's bones appears to be leading somewhere. People are working together. For the first time in a long time, there is a feeling that progress is being made. And that's exactly why everything falls apart. Because the moment this show allows its characters to believe they understand the game changes. That's been the pattern from the very beginning. Every breakthrough comes with a price. Every answer creates a bigger question. Every victory turns into another nightmare. And nowhere is that more obvious than in Mari's death. Let's be honest, this wasn't just another death. This was one of the most emotionally devastating moments the show has ever delivered. We've seen brutal deaths before. We've seen shocking deaths. We've seen horrifying deaths. But Mari's death hurts because it feels unfair. Watching her slowly realize what was happening while desperately trying to hold on to normality was heartbreaking. The denial, the fear, the desperate attempt to stay strong. And then that final moment with Christy. One last kiss, one final goodbye. No miracle, no rescue, just loss. And that's exactly why the scene works. Because From understands that horror isn't always about monsters jumping out of the darkness. Sometimes it's about watching two people who love each other realize there's nothing left they can do. The tragedy doesn't end with Maury's death either. It extends to Christy. Because now the town has lost far more than a resident. It may have lost its doctor. Think about what Christy has already endured. She's survived nightmare after nightmare. She's patched people together after impossible injuries. She's carried responsibilities nobody should have to carry. And now she's lost the person she loved most. What happens if grief breaks her? What happens if she no longer wants to be the person everyone depends on? Because that could become one of the most dangerous consequences of the finale. But as devastating as Mari's death is, the finale isn't really about Mari. It's about Sophia, because while the town is grieving, Sophia is moving, and that's where things become truly unsettling. The conversation with the boy in white feels incredibly important, not because of what is said, but because of what it suggests. For years, From has introduced mysterious figures who seem connected to the deeper forces controlling the town. Some appear helpful, others appear hostile, but very few characters seem to understand the larger picture. Sophia does. Or at least she appears to. And that's what makes her so dangerous. Because unlike most of the people trapped in this nightmare, Sophia isn't reacting to events. She's shaping them. That's a huge difference. The finale strongly suggests that nearly every major event this season may have been pushing toward a specific outcome. Not random suffering. Not random chaos. A destination. A ritual, a cycle. And once you start looking at the town through that lens, everything changes. Because what if the town isn't simply haunted? What if it's operating exactly as intended? Throughout the season, we've repeatedly heard ideas about cycles, repetition, and events that seem to happen over and over again. Julie's experiences hinted at previous versions of the same nightmare. The strange visions, the symbols, The recurring patterns all point towards something that has happened before, many times. Which brings us to the bottle tree, or, perhaps more importantly, the faraway tree. This tree has always felt bigger than a transportation device. The show constantly treats it as something sacred, dangerous, and deeply connected to the town's foundation. It's never just a tree. It's part of the system, a mechanism, a doorway, a piece of whatever supernatural machine is keeping everything running. So when Sophia appears to interact with the talismans connected to that location, it feels impossible to ignore. Because the talismans represent protection, safety, the thin barrier standing between humanity and the monsters outside. Without them, people become vulnerable. Without them, the town becomes exposed. And if Sophia truly removed that protection, then the question becomes obvious. Why? Why would she intentionally make the town weaker? Unless weakening the town was the goal. Or worse, unless the town was never supposed to be protected in the first place. That's where the finale's imagery becomes fascinating. The lightning, the earthquake, the disturbance surrounding the children's bones. These aren't presented as separate events. They're connected, almost like a chain reaction, a consequence, something ancient responding to interference. The moment the bones are disturbed, reality itself seems to react. The sky changes, the ground shakes, the world becomes unstable, and suddenly the idea that the children, the trees, and the cycles are all connected doesn't seem so crazy anymore. What if the bones aren't remains? What if they're anchors? What if they've been holding something in place this entire time? Because if that's true, then digging them up wasn't solving the mystery. It was activating it. And Sophia knew exactly what would happen. That's what keeps bringing me back to her actions. Nothing feels accidental. Everything feels deliberate. She isn't behaving like someone improvising. She's behaving like someone following a script, a ritual, a sequence of events she understands better than anyone else. And that's what makes her connection to the larger mythology so compelling. Because every season of From introduces another layer of horror. Season the 4th of Na Mojamama may have introduced something even more frightening than the monsters. Purpose. The possibility that everything happening in town serves a function. That the suffering matters. That the deaths matter. That every cycle produces a result. And Sophia may be one of the few people who understands what that result actually is. Then we have Fatima. And honestly, this might be the biggest clue of all. Because for the first time, the town appears to have created something new. Or perhaps revealed something that was always there. Fatima's connection to the creatures changes the conversation completely. Until now, the monsters have largely existed as an external threat, something separate from the residents, something hunting them. But Fatima blurs that line. Suddenly, the boundary between human and creature becomes unclear. And that's dangerous, because if someone can become connected to these forces without completely losing themselves, then entirely new possibilities emerge. What if the monsters aren't the final form? What if they're merely one piece of a much larger system? What if Fatima represents evolution rather than corruption? That possibility becomes even more interesting when viewed alongside Sophia's actions. Because if Sophia represents one supernatural force and Fatima represents another, then perhaps the conflict isn't simply humanity versus monsters. Perhaps it's something much bigger. Perhaps there are multiple powers operating behind the scenes, multiple factions, multiple agendas. And the people trapped in town are caught in the middle of a war they don't even realize exists. Which brings us to the question I can't stop thinking about. Did Sophia actually doom the town? Or did she save it? I know that sounds ridiculous. After everything that happened, after the deaths, after the destruction, after what appears to be the removal of the town's defenses. But what if we're looking at her actions from the wrong perspective? What if Sophia isn't trying to end the cycle? What if she's trying to complete it? Because those are two very different things. One creates chaos, the other creates transformation. And if the town truly operates through rituals, cycles, and repeated patterns, then completion may be the only way out. The terrifying possibility is that every attempt to stop the cycle simply resets it. Every rebellion, every escape attempt, every plan, every victory, just another turn of the wheel. And Sophia knows it, which would explain why she always seems one step ahead, why she never panics, why she never appears surprised, because she's not playing the same game as everyone else. She's playing a much older one. And if that's true, then the finale wasn't the end of her plan. It was the beginning. The real horror isn't that Sophia won. The real horror is that she may have gotten exactly what she wanted. And if that's the case, then Season 5 isn't going to be about surviving the monsters. It's going to be about discovering why the cycle exists in the first place. Because until the people of this town understand that answer, they'll never truly be free. But what do you think? Did Sophia remove the talismans to destroy the town? Did digging up the children's bones trigger something ancient? And is Fatima becoming humanity's greatest weapon against the darkness? Or its next nightmare? Let me know in the comments. Because after that finale, one thing feels absolutely certain. The monsters are no longer the biggest mystery in From.